AFI is support, encouragement, inspiration. AFI is learning by experiencing and analyzing cinema history, and learning by doing. AFI helps you find your own unique cinema voice, and AFI champions your voice ringing out. I love AFI.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the AFI Conservatory Class of 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, the President and CEO of AFI, Bob Gazzale.
Welcome. Today, we have a double feature. 2 landmark moments, one 50 years in the making, which provides the foundation for the second and the true intent of this gathering to celebrate you fellows at the 2017 commencement exercises. This very day marks the 50th anniversary of the American Film Institute, an idea signed into action by the President of the United States in the White House Rose Garden to create an organization that would ensure that the motion picture stands proudly in America alongside the other arts, to preserve its heritage, to honor the artists and their work, and to educate the next generation of storytellers. You. It's fitting that we gather here today in the Chinese Theatre, which, like your American Film Institute, stands tall and proud across changing times. When the doors to the Chinese opened 90 years ago, it was for silent films that had a full orchestra to accompany its images. With the advent of sound, this theater was dubbed the Temple of the Talking Picture. And now, we're gathered in the world's largest IMAX theater. So too has AFI embraced the seismic changes in this art form, but at the conservatory, always with the commitment and the encouragement to find your voice, to believe that you learn by doing, and to strive for excellence through collaboration. This is your story, and look at the characters who have gathered for you today. First, somewhere, as Billy Wilder once wrote, among those wonderful people out there in the dark, there are several luminaries I'd like to recognize. The chairman of AFI's Board of Trustees, Sir Howard Stringer, the man behind AFI's curtain, the chairman of the AFI Board of Directors, Bob Daly, and our nation's greatest storyteller and the artistic director of the AFI Conservatory, James L. Brooks. And finally, 2 members of the AFI Board of Directors who together have devoted over 50 years in service to the AFI, Dame Jillian Sackler and Larry Herbert. Let's give them a hand. And then there are those who you brought with you, your parents and grandparents, who want nothing more and nothing less than to see your dreams realized. Your brothers and sisters are here. They are reeking with jealousy. It's a high compliment. Your wives, husbands, and partners are here. As my daughter would say, they think you're cray-cray. Or as we call you at AFI, artists. Your faculty is here, and the conservatory staff, men and women who give and give and give and get even more from you in return. And of course, there are your fellow fellows, the screenwriters who are thinking, he started with the screenwriters? There's the directors who are thinking, he started with the screenwriters? There's the cinematographers who are thinking, it's okay, I know I'm really the director. The producers who have contacted their attorneys to demand that I retract said mention of screenwriters, directors, and cinematographers to ensure proper credit. There are the editors who just cut out my mention of screenwriters, directors, cinematographers, and producers to ensure proper credit. And then there are the production designers who think you are all nuts. Distinctly different people, together, classmates and collaborators. Call it an American ideal, but call it the American Film Institute, because it's here that these two moments come together, AFI's 50th and your achievement here today. For when your degree says AFI, it says the White House Rose Garden, where those seeds planted now blossom and grow in your stories. It says John Ford, Betty Davis, Alfred Hitchcock, masters of the art form and AFI honorees. It says our founders, Gregory Peck, Sidney Poitier, Francis Ford Coppola. It says Carol Burnett, and laughter that echoes across decades. It says Marshall Herskovitz and Ed Zwick. They are the dynamic duo who not only make AFI proud, they have made AFI better. It says all the alums who have come before, Terrence Malick, David Lynch, Darren Aronofsky, and come on, let's hear it for Patty Jenkins. Yeah. And it's not just Patty. Our surveys show that 81% of our alumni are working. Why? Because you leave here together and you don't let go. Don't let go. Now let's get you out of here to tell your story. Where does it end? That's up to you. But it begins here and now with these commencement exercises. Congratulations. Visionary. One who believes in something before it is true, before it is real. Creator. One who builds something where there was once nothing. Idealist. One who believes in a higher standard. These three words define our next speaker. He was there in the White House Rose Garden when President Lyndon Johnson said, "We will create an American Film Institute." He was there to write the very words that define the national mandate of AFI. He was there to lead the organization through its youth, founding the AFI Center for Advanced Film Studies, creating, writing, and producing the AFI Life Achievement Award, charting a future for the American Film Institute with integrity as a guiding star. It is a rare gift on an anniversary like this one to celebrate the one responsible, to show our respect, and to show our gratitude for the vision, the creation, and the ideal. Ladies and gentlemen, the founding director of the American Film Institute, George Stevens, Jr.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought I was here to present the award for outstanding mugging in the graduating class before the entrance camera, which would have gone to, I'm sure he was a producing fellow who was talking on the phone with his non-fat latte. 50 years ago, today, at a press conference in Washington, D.C., Gregory Peck and I announced the creation of the American Film Institute with high aspiration and great hopes. Its mission was to advance and elevate the art of film in the United States. And one central idea was to create a Center for Advanced Film Studies, a bridge for young people from learning to make films to becoming professional filmmakers. You, the graduates of 2017, 58 women and 66 men, are a fulfillment of that dream. When President Kennedy declared that we were going to send a man to the moon within a decade, he said, we do it and it's worthwhile, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Your challenges as fellows were many, and it was hard, and it is never going to be easy. But we hope that the rigors of your experience at AFI will arm you with confidence and strength going forward. You will see two of your forebears, Marshall Herskovitz and Ed Zwick, receive honorary degrees today. May their example inspire you. Not just the fact of their success, though their success is laudable, but look to their concentration through the years on work of quality and commitment and maintaining integrity. And look to their dedication to the institution that provided their training. They have been dedicated trustees for many years and take keen interest in the conservatory and its fellows. And when you receive your degrees today, you need not say goodbye. Consider yourselves a part of this institution. Make time in your busy lives to keep in touch and take interest in the men and women who will follow in your footsteps. And if you exercise regularly and eat organic food, you may be here for the 100th anniversary of the American Film Institute. And as you go forward and decide how you will use your imagination and talent and training in this rich arena of storytelling, I'd like you to consider the thoughts of William Faulkner. He spoke of the responsibility of the artist when he received the Nobel Prize. He said, "It is the artist's privilege to help man endure by lifting his heart and by reminding him of the courage and honor and hope and pride and compassion and pity and sacrifice which have been the glory of his past. The poet's voice need not merely be the record of man. It can be one of the props, the pillars, to help him endure and prevail." Congratulations, class of 2017. May each one of you endure, and prevail.
And now the presentation of the honorary degrees. It is the moment when we honor an ideal, a journey well-traveled, so that as you embark on your next adventure, there is a standard to which you may aspire. Our first presenter this year is the greatest bundle of talent this world has seen in generations. And that ain't Hollywood hyperbole. Film, television, Broadway. It was 1999 when the New York Times celebrated the revival of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and the opening paragraph of the entire review was about her performance. And I quote, "Sally Brown is portrayed by a small but definitely adult actress who is giving one of those breakout performances that send careers skyward." And into the sky her career went. A few years later, to descend in a bubble as Galinda in the magical musical Wicked. You've also seen her in The West Wing, pushing Daisy's Glee, and so much more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kristin Chenoweth.
I'm looking for my speech, so while whoever it is that took it goes and finds it, I would like to tell y'all what I saw today when y'all were walking in. I saw some purple hair. I see now before me some amazing shoes. I see some potential boyfriends, which is great that you're legal, because jail is not an option for me. Thank you so much, AFI, for having me, for me to be here for one of probably my favorite all-time ever performers and entertainers and actresses in the most amazing organization. 50 years, what you've done. I, of course, am not 50, but I hear it's amazing. I am so happy to be here to honor my friend and comedy idol, the legendary Miss Carol Burnett. Everybody has their Carol Burnett story. For me, it was, of course, the iconic Carol Burnett show. My mom and dad always had your show on, Carol. I remember watching you as a little girl, littler than I am now, in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And by the way, thank you for getting the appropriate sized podium, AFI, for all of the speakers today. Oklahoma, every Saturday on our television screen, and my dad just doubled over with laughter. And I thought, I want to make people do that, what she's making him do. In fact, we were just recently at her concert, her show at the Beacon, he and I together. So talk about a full circle moment. It was very special for us. And he still doubled over. He made some other noises which would be impolite for me to mention today. I wasn't thinking about the show itself being iconic or about how Carol was revolutionizing the face of television, opening doors for female performers for generations to come. My family and I were just enjoying her amazing talent like the rest of the country, laughing until our sides hurt. She brought joy to our home and, of course, millions of others. Most of you might not know this, but Carol grew up in Hollywood, not far from where we are right now. She went to Hollywood High School, where she later studied theater at UCLA. Growing up at the heart of film and television, she went on to movies as often as she could. She went to them. She worshiped the theater, the films, the cinema. She loved every part of it. After every movie she saw, she would race home, run home up to the roof of her apartment building, and with her best friend, act out all the scenes she'd just seen. Not surprisingly, she ended up working as an usherette at a movie theater on Hollywood Boulevard. These were the days when movies would run over and over and over. So you came in early to your movie and you'd you'd ruin it. You'd catch the ending of the previous running. So when Carol tried to warn a couple of people who just entered from the theater of this fate, she's reported to a supervisor and then promptly fired. Years later, when she was asked where she'd like her star on the Hollywood Hall of Fame, she proudly said, right in front of that movie theater. That's my kind of broad right there. The movies influenced and shaped Carol into the comedian she is today. She began her career as a struggling actress in New York. Is there really any other kind, I wonder? Except for Lea Michele. And used her life experiences, whom I love, to change the landscape of the sketch comedy show and influence so many women and men, some of whom might be in this audience, to pursue a career in this industry. It changed everything. You changed everything. I know that you're all anxious to begin your journeys, to find your voice, but when you go forth in this cray-cray business, I want you to remember the passion, the creativity, the love, the effort, the sweat and tears that Carol put into everything she ever did. And I want you to create characters that are real and funny, stories that mean something to you, that inspire you. Take on subjects that scare you, that excite you, that question everything you believe in. Challenge yourself. That's what Carol did. She has inspired many artists like myself to do the same. I thank you for it. And the world thanks you for it, Carol. One of you can inspire the next Carol Burnett. You could create something that makes someone want to drop everything and just jump into that screen and recreate the scene with her friends on a rooftop, remembering every line and every detail of dress and direction. Those crazy people. You could do that. But I'm sure Carol would tell you. In fact, I know she would because she's told me. Know your influences and who they've been. And keep your uniqueness. Do it your own way. Because after all, there's only one Carol, but there's only one you too. Celebrate the things that make you different. Carol, I'm so proud to stand here today to express my love for you and all you've done and for who you are as a woman, as a person, as a friend, and as a member of our industry and community. And just to say, I'm so glad we had this time together, just to have a laugh and sing a song. And to quote herself, when you have a dream, you've got to grab it and never let it go. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, guess it's time for us to say, it is my honor to bestow AFI's Doctorate of Fine Arts upon Carol Burnett with a reading of the official citation of 2017. Come on up here, Carol. I'm not done yet. Now, since I have apparently lost this lovely little thing right here that keeps choking me, I'm going to remove mine and put Carol's on. As I speak, here we go. You were born in Texas and raised in Hollywood, but while the City of Angels was right outside your door, the destination of so many dreams and stardoms, New York City beckoned you and yours. You lit up the Great White Way in Once Upon a Mattress, just as you lit up living rooms around the country. And it was the Carol Burnett Show in 1967 that announced you as an icon for the ages. You earned our affection with your signature series as groundbreaking and as iconic, bringing to life your character after character with equal parts humanity and hilarity. A household name on TV you've enchanted on the big screen as well, including Robert Altman's A Wedding, Peter Bogdanovich's Noises Off, and as a musical madwoman, Miss Hannigan in John Huston's Annie. You are beloved for your comedy, but your gifts echo beyond laughter, defining an artist whose enduring legacy is as diverse as it is inarguable.
The script.
With me here, yes.
Must be right for madam.
That's right.
Give me the script.
You are.
All right.
Read it to me, Max.
I'll read it to you. Fade in.
Yes.
Madam is standing there holding a can of it, knock him dead insecticide.
Yes, Max.
She's in the bedroom.
Yes, with my lover.
No, madam, you are with a bed bug.
That's our trademark.
Bedbug?
Yeah.
Yes.
Trademark, Billy Bedbug.
Bedbug? You expect Nora Desmond to appear in a film with a bedbug? Never! Unless, of course, my name goes above the bedbug.
Well, I don't think we can handle that. You see, he's done about 60 of these commercials.
The bed bug will get second billing.
Yes, well, he's very reasonable, too. We can talk to him on that.
Max, introduce me to my new leading man.
You have the bed bug with you?
Yes, yeah, Bill. Yeah.
All right. Introduce him to madam.
Introduce him?
Introduce him to madam.
Right, you got it. Billy, this is Nora Desmond, Miss Desmond, Billy.
You may kiss my hand.
Kiss her hand. Get it.
Give him to me.
Oh, careful now, he's pretty valuable.
What's his name?
Billy.
Billy. Hello, Billy. You will be my new leading man. You and I will become America's sweethearts, Billy. I will make you rich and famous. You will be driven in chauffeur-driven limousines. You will have wild parties and women will throw themselves at your little legs. We will be lovers. But then one night you will come home and you will tell me that you're in love with another woman. How dare you! How dare you do this to me after all I've done for you?
Before I bestow this beautiful thing around your neck, I would really, really love, and I'm sure the audience would too, if you would do your iconic Tarzan yell.
I'm not quite warmed up for this, but I'll do my best. I don't know. I shaved my chest this morning, so I'm not sure if I could.
Sounds warmed up to me. It is in recognition of your distinct contribution to the art of the moving image that the American Film Institute is proud to confer upon you its Doctorate of Fine Arts, honoris causa.
Thank you. Kristin, I can't thank you enough. She was a surprise for me today. I didn't know that you were going to be here. What a wonderful, wonderful thrill. Thank you, sweetheart. You know how much I love you. Well, I can't tell you how much this means to me today, but I'm going to. I grew up just a few blocks away from this very theater. And there were so many times when my grandmother, Nanny, who raised me, and we would hang outside the ropes here at the Chinese Theater and watch all the stars coming in for the premieres, you know. And I was even lucky enough to get a few autographs. And it's such a thrill to be here where I grew up. We didn't have much money when I was growing up, but what we would do, we would save our pennies, and we would go to the picture show, as we called it then, whenever we could. Back in the covered wagon days when I was a kid, there were what they called second-run theaters here on Hollywood Boulevard, which meant you could see two movies, right? And so we would, as I said, we would save our pennies, and sometimes I would see as many as, if we went 4 times, I'd see as many as 8 movies a week. And, well, I fell in love with the movies. They made me forget we were poor because I would be transported into the world of make-believe, the world of Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland, Betty Grable, Tyrone Power, Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, Humphrey Bogart, on and on and on. And you know what I'm talking about here. The movies of that era, in the 40s, left an imprint on me as a little girl because they told me that nothing was impossible if you believed hard enough and if you worked hard enough. So I guess, but you know, back then, what you could say about the movies in that era was that they were kind of naive, you know. There was no cynicism. The bad guys got what was coming to them, and the good guys made it to the top. If Mickey and Judy put on a show in the backyard barn, it was sure to wind up on Broadway. So a few years later, when I got the chance to go to New York, try my luck in the Broadway theater, I remember I got off the train and I looked up at all those tall buildings, and I truly believed that good things were going to happen to me. Well, you know what? Eventually they did, and it didn't happen right away. I couldn't get a job unless I had an agent. Couldn't get an agent unless I had a job so that they come and see me in something, you know? So it was the old catch-22. But at the time, I was lucky enough to live in a place called the Rehearsal Club, which was a 4-story brownstone in Manhattan that housed 25 would-be hopeful women to get into show business. Well, I finally did get in, past a secretary, as they called them then, to see an agent, and I was thrilled. And he said to me, well, let me know when you're in something. I said, well, how can I get in something? What? He said, oh, I don't know, go put on your own show. Hello. I went back to the Rehearsal Club, and I talked to all the girls, and we wound up putting on the Rehearsal Club Review. We wrote it, we wrote the whole thing, staged it, and we invited every agent, producer, director who was in town, you know, to come. Okay, now we're in something, come see us. Well, they did. They came. And I got a job, I got an agent, and I got a job out of that. And a few years later, I got the lead in a Broadway musical. But I truly, honest to God, believe that the movies I saw as a kid gave me the courage not to be discouraged. And so if Mickey and Judy could put on a show, so could we. That was my inspiration, the movies. And so we did it because nothing was impossible. So I know some may scoff at this Pollyanna-ish attitude, but all I know is it worked for me, and I wanted to share that with you today. So congratulations to all of you. Go out there, follow your dreams, make great art, and you know something, nothing is impossible. Thank you.
I can say for certain that I wouldn't be standing here today without our next presenter. She found me in the hills of Virginia, where I was chained to the leg of a billionaire's wife. That's only a slight exaggeration. But she brought me to AFI, where I found a home, I found my wife, and I found my future. It was her AFI, a kingdom over which she reigned for 28 years. 28 years, incidentally, is the average age of your graduating class. And the longer I serve, the greater my respect and admiration grows for her. For she took what George created, and as the world turned, she reinvented the organization with each new technological advance, each new shift in the cultural mores. And for my part, she's been a mentor and a maestra, a confidant and a consigliere, a thorn in my side, a therapist, and a friend. For AFI, she's been a driving force to ensure that this organization stands tall at 50 years. And she's here today to present two very special honorary degrees. Ladies and gentlemen, AFI President Emerita, Jean Picker Firstenberg.
One day you'll get the rest of that story about where I found him. I'm going to give him a slight pause here because I'm going to go off script, point of personal privilege, because I just want to mention two things. There were two gentlemen who marched today and are sitting in the audience, and Bob mentioned them, but I need to personally recognize Sir Howard Stringer, who has sat at the chair of the trustee table since 2000. He joined the board in 1989. And 6 months after he joined, he sent me the largest bouquet of flowers I had ever received. And he said, "I'm sorry I haven't gotten involved yet, but I promise you I will." And since that day, he has been the staunchest supporter that AFI could have. He stands beside Bob Daly, who joined the board in 1981. And all I can tell everyone here today is that AFI is celebrating its 50th anniversary with strength because of these two gentlemen. And I'd just like you to thank them again for me. And Bob also mentioned Patty Jenkins. And I just want to thank all of you for going to see Wonder Woman this past weekend. And I want to ask all of you to go back and see it again, because it's a wonderful movie, because it's a human story. And that's what Patty Jenkins stands for. Her thesis film, Velocity Rules, was about a Wonder Woman. And I think all of us can take pride in the way she has conducted herself and her career. So I stand here today in the theater that her film opened in, and I'll come back here this weekend and see all of you when we do it again. It is an honor to be here today, to have been part of AFI's history, to have followed in the footsteps of George Stevens Jr., who started AFI with no blueprint, no model, but who marshaled the artistic forces of American film to realize a bold vision, all at the ripe old age of 35. I was only 43 when I inherited AFI from him, and Bob was 42 when he took up the torch. Sir Howard dubbed Bob a Renaissance man lurking in the basement. All this is to say that AFI's leadership throughout its lifespan has been relatively young, which may account in part for its longevity, though we all certainly aged along the way. But that is why, on our 50th anniversary, I'm so pleased that all three of us are here to share the stage. Today, I've been asked to present honorary degrees, and proud to stand on behalf of Marshall Herskovitz and Ed Zwick. I met them in 1980, right after I started at AFI. At the time, and they will testify to this because they've said it, I was a deer in the headlights, inheriting a bi-coastal organization with an uncertain future from its underlying financial base. So I was meeting as many alumni as I could, trying to get a lay of the land, working on learning what made this place special, and trying to earn my place. And I met these two guys. They were still in their 20s. They definitely hadn't made it yet, but they were working on earning their place, just like me. Something clicked, and we just got each other. I say that because it was the first insight I had into their empathy, which is what makes them the personification of what the conservatory stands for, because empathy is the heart of collaboration. These are two men who sat where you sit today and have gone on to meritorious careers. They did it together. I think of Marshall as a great writer-producer who also directs. I think of Ed as a great writer-director who also produces. But no matter how you slice it, they complement each other, which is a huge advantage. Their credits and their accolades are many. I'm going to focus on one, an early project that they created together for television, 30-something. Trust me, your parents and grandparents loved it. It was a breakthrough series, smart, personal, human, psychoanalyzing a generation with the kind of insights we frequently see credited to today's golden age of streaming television. I'm talking Norman Lear levels of innovation and inspiration. But rather than let it define them, they took its success as an opportunity to define themselves as artists of integrity, who, no matter the format, found ways to tell stories about something, an idea, an issue, a moment in time. The notion that the most epic stories are human stories. And there's that empathy again. It runs through everything they do together. Even when they've worked individually, they always have each other's back, just like they always had mine, and just like they've always had AFI's. And one final thing before I read their official citations. They have a production company that they call Bedford Falls, after George Bailey's idyllic hometown in their favorite movie, It's a Wonderful Life. And we all know that every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. I have my bell. So today, I wanted to start with Ed, because the poor guy's name always puts him last at the end of any list. They wouldn't let me do it. So, it is now my honor to bestow AFI's Doctorate of Communication Arts upon Marshall with the reading of his official citation. You were born in the city of brotherly love and educated at Brandeis University outside Boston. But it was at the AFI Conservatory that you found your voice and a lifelong home. You have shepherded stories that reveal the scope and scale of human emotion, from 30-something, My So-Called Life, Once and Again, and now Nashville, to Dangerous Beauty, The Last Samurai, and Blood Diamond. But even greater than your gifts as producer, writer, and director has been your Lincoln-esque leadership on behalf of your creative community from guiding the Producers Guild of America to its current relevance and stature, to your timeless work on campus and on the board as the Vice Chair of AFI. You are a shining example of what it means to give back, embodying in your work and beyond the mantra of the AFI Conservatory collaboration. You see us stronger together in a world where working together is more essential than ever.
I am so exhausted at the end of the day that I don't usually even remember that I am a sexual person.
Whose fault is that?
Oh, it's not about fault, Elliot. We have 2 kids that I take care of. I mean, I spend my whole day talking about Rainbow Bright and Transformers and wondering if Britty has had enough milk or something. I mean, all I'm saying is that I need some help in changing gears. Is that asking too much? I mean, I am sorry that I am not like the women in the porno films who don't need any help.
You wouldn't even watch it.
No, wait,
with
I
me.
tried to watch it.
No,
but
you
I
did
mean, it was
not.
a big turnoff to me. It just made my flesh crawl. I mean, those women are not real women. They're robots.
Why?
And if-
Because they don't mind making men
if
happy?
you had
Why?
any sexual or emotional maturity, you would understand the difference, that's all. What?
What? What's the point in even going? I mean, it's obvious I'm a bad person. What's the point in even going on here?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What you're saying is that I'm a pervert. That's what you're saying.
Do you think she's saying that?
Look, what does it matter what she's saying? What she's saying is she doesn't want me.
No, I am not saying that.
You say that every day. You say that every day when I come home. You're not glad to see me. It's here. Take the kids. And then if I try to touch you or if I want to touch you, it's like, what does Elliot want? Elliot, what does Elliot want? Don't you want me? I mean, I don't mean anything. I mean, you fight me, Nancy. You do. You fight me. No,
I'm not
no, you
fighting.
fight me. You do. You're fighting me now. You're fighting me right now. Nancy, you're fighting me right now. Can't you stop for 1 second? I mean, what is it? Why am I mean, I can't believe I'm this awful person, this evil person.
Ellie, I don't. I don't. I don't.
In recognition of your distinctive contribution to the art of the moving image, the American Film Institute is proud to confer upon you its Doctorate of Communication Arts, honoris causa.
Oh my God, no.
Want me to just hold it for you? We have to do it. Not easy, though.
Bend down. You're ruining my hair. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the trustees for giving me the honor of meeting Carol Burnett. Like you, I'm in awe of everything you've done. So happy to be here with you. And it's actually a great opportunity for me to be on this stage with George and Jeannie and Bob, all of us, at the same time. You know, you've heard them speak, but, you know, those of us old people know sort of what they've done and what this place would be without them. You know, why would you even think of creating the American Film Institute? Why would anyone ever say yes to it? How did it ever happen, you know? And Jeannie becomes the head of the Institute in 1980, the year Ronald Reagan becomes president, and all of a sudden we have no money anymore, and she has to reinvent the entire place. And Bob basically is riding the big bang as the place explodes in a million different directions and somehow keeps it together. And without the three of you, I am absolutely certain a bunch of us would be panhandling out on Hollywood Boulevard right now. So I just want to really thank you. Back in the olden days, we didn't have commencement at AFI. They just kind of kicked you out one day and said, come on, get out of here, get a job, you know, grow up. So I'm really grateful for this. I feel a little bit like the scarecrow. I may not have a brain, but at least I have a diploma. And also, of course, I have a best friend and a creative partner for 42 years. We met the first day we were here and became fast friends. Ed likes to say that we became each other's best friends and scourges. But honestly, I think there were a lot of times when he just plain saved my life. And I just am eternally grateful for his support and what I've learned from him and the bullshit he's given me and everything else. It's just been an extraordinary partnership, which is the longest living partnership in Hollywood today, by the way. How that happened, I don't know, but there we are. And if I was wearing a mortarboard, I'd tip it to you, but I'm not, thank God. So, back in the day, AFI was not like it is now. AFI, going to AFI was like waking up in Sleeping Beauty's castle. Time had stopped for 100 years. As far as we were told, the golden age of Hollywood was still going on. We had the evidence right in front of us. The giants of cinema were all still alive. They all came up to Greystone. Weiler, Capra, Cukor, Bergman, Fellini. It was unbelievable sitting and talking to these people. It was life-changing. Billy Wilder was our expert on how you got movies made. What? You go to Palm Springs with Izzy Diamond for 6 days. You sit and write Some Like It Hot. You got a hit. What's the problem? The problem was our knowledge of the film business stopped at the African Queen. And then we got out, and it was like, what the hell? Like, what is this place? Like, why is everybody talking about first weekend grosses, and what's a package fee, and what are home video markets, and why do they matter? And we didn't have a fucking clue how any of it worked. We were lost. So, actually, what I want to say to you, to all these people graduating today, is that you should feel good about where you are. Because unlike us, you've learned about the business. So you already know you have no fucking clue how it works. Your teachers admit to you they have no fucking clue how it works. Everybody who comes up to the campus says they don't have no fucking clue how it works because the business is changing so goddamn fast that nobody even knows where it's going. So you know you're lost before you even leave. And I really wish I could be the one to tell you if you're gonna make a living making movies or TV shows or web series or VR series or brain implant series. But I don't know either. I do know one thing. It turns out that there was a value to waking up in Sleeping Beauty's castle. We didn't have to think about what pilots CBS was buying that year or what comic book Paramount wanted to make next. We only had to think about one thing, and that was, could we be great? Like those guys. Could we make something that people would take into their hearts and remember forever? And so I guess what I want to say to you is if nothing else makes sense, and nothing does, bet on yourself. Bet on being great. At least try. That's what this place is about. That's what it's always been about. It's the only preparation worth having. And aren't you lucky? It's the preparation you got. So I wish you the best of luck. I really do. And I thank you so much for this.
Now it's my honor to bestow AFI's Doctorate of Communications upon Ed with the reading of this official citation. You were a storyteller from the start, making movies in your Chicago suburb and pursuing your narrative passions from Harvard to the AFI Conservatory. You have told America's tales, stories both epic and intimate, on screens large and small. As a director, you have made your mark in films such as About Last Night, Glory, Courage Under Fire, The Siege, The Last Samurai, finding the humanity in heroism and the heroism in humanity. What goes beyond the big screen is your resolve as an AFI vice chair and your undying belief in the founding tenets of the AFI Conservatory, or as you call them, the Kool-Aid. You are an artist who has embraced the inherent creativity of working together in not only your own career, but in championing AFI's storytellers of tomorrow.
If this man should fall, who will lift the flag and carry on?
I will.
I'll see you in the fort, Thomas. Fix! Bayonets! Shoulder! Shoulder! Arms! Charge! 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 Bayonets! And the quick step!
Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Zwick. It is in recognition of your distinctive contributions to the art of the moving image that the American Film Institute is proud to confer upon you its Doctorate of Communication Arts, honoris causa.
Thank you, Jean. And thank you to the Board of Trustees, especially to Bob Daly and Howard Stringer. Your generosity, your energy, and your dedication to this place never ceases to amaze me. To Bob Gazzale, I'd like to just take one moment to say that I do not understand how you manage to keep this stew of unruly artists, passionate faculty, talented administrators together, and yet turn out brilliant graduates year after year. There's nothing but a simple thank you that can suffice. So thank you. To my wife, who is in the audience out there somewhere beyond the blaring lights, she is the muse who continues to inspire and tolerate me, and whose love and insight and support have animated and even at times originated every film that I've ever made. Liberty, you alone know how much this means to me. And finally, to Marshall Herskovitz, my partner, my brother, who for almost 40 years, or maybe more, including just now, I can always count on to steal my best material. Thanks. Okay, here we go. Fellow fellows, faculty, parents, friends, student loan officers. Forget anything you may have assumed about my career at AFI. I promise you, I was one of the lamest graduates in its history. I worked hard. Yes, I went to class. I listened to big deal writers bloviate and tell self-serving war stories. But for years, literally, for years after leaving, it was though I had learned nothing at all. And that's what I want to talk to you about what happens now after graduation. Like you, I schemed and I scammed to get somebody, anybody, to look at my thesis film. And finally, I managed to get a studio exec to screen it for me. I then made the pathetic mistake of sneaking into the back of the screening room and watching, in horror, as he walked out halfway through. And this was a 20-minute short. But I needed to succeed. Nothing was more important to me than succeeding. And so I learned to imitate the cliches of the 70s network TV drama that was all around me. And eventually I found work writing our drama. And for 2 years, I labored in the episodic salt mines, churning out one mediocre script after another, every word of which, by the way, was rewritten by the executive producers. And even when I finally got a job directing an episode, somehow it ended up looking like every other episode of every other show that had ever been made. My first TV movie, same result, even worse. I wouldn't even tell people when it was on. I was so ashamed. It was as if there was this chasm between what I imagined and what ended up on the screen. And inevitably, I would show my work to Marshall, and he would get this kind but anguished look in his eye, because he agreed. It sucked. I was in despair. And then one night, I had a dream. It was a terrible, terrible, scary dream, what I now know to be an anxiety dream. It was about nuclear annihilation and watching it all happen on television. And because Marshall and I have basically spoken every day since film school, and also because he's basically been in psychoanalysis since he was 3, while I was always much too scared to start, I told him my dream. And he looked at me, and he said, "Let's do it." "Do what?" I said. "Your dream, idiot. It's a movie." And so we did it. And from that moment, when we started working together, and I mean really working together, it was like the penny dropped. My wife likes to say it's like Helen Keller at the pump when she goes like this, water. If you don't know that movie, you're not responding, but you better see it. Anyway, it was the penny that dropped, and suddenly, everything that my teachers had been talking about here, every class, every late-night conversation with other fellows, every horrific communist Chinese struggle session in the narrative workshop, it was all there. It had always been there. But apparently, even more than I needed to succeed, I had needed to fail. Again and again. Or as Samuel Beckett put it, fail better. And it was only then, after abject humiliation and repeated mortification, that I finally had no choice at all but to stop trying to do what others wanted and begin to trust my own voice, or in this case, my own dream. Now, I want to be clear. It's not as if everything I've done since then has succeeded. In fact, far from it. But from that moment, everything I've ever done, whether with Marshall or without him, his voice has been in my head. All the little phrases that make me want to murder him. Like, "This scene makes me tired." Or, "Why exactly are we watching this?" And over the years, I've come to realize that his voice was the AFI voice, the voice of the faculty, the voice of the artist in residence, my classmates, challenging me to be brave, encouraging me to be personal, to look inside, to be uncompromising. So, what I ask you now, since I have the privilege of being last, is just look around and remember that leaving here, you are not alone. Even if you should forget why you went through this hell, why you spent all this money, and maybe for a while might seem even unable to apply any of it to the real world, your classmates will be there to serve as a living reminder of who you are and what you dream of. So, I congratulate you as you honor me, and I wish you all good things and some success in the battles to come. Thank you.
As Marshall referenced, a wizard once said to a scarecrow, "Back where I come from, we have universities, seats of great learning, where men and women go to become great thinkers. And when they come out, they think deep thoughts. And with no more brains than you have, Scarecrow. But the one thing they haven't got is a diploma." So to preside over the presentation of the degrees, and first to introduce a voice from the class of 2017, a man who has shared your journey, a man who moved to Los Angeles, a man who moved to the United States to be with you. He has celebrated your triumphs, he has felt your pain, and over the 3 years that I've had the honor of working with him, I can tell you that his priority was and is and will remain you. There is no greater symbol for this than the inspired photo gallery of you in the Warner Building, to remind us and all who walk the halls of your individual humanity that collectively comes together in your stories. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dean of the AFI Conservatory, Jan Schutte.
you. Have a good look here. I feel honored and humbled to be today here on the 50th anniversary of the AFI. And what you're seeing here is not the history of the American Film Institute, it's American film. And I think it's a great honor that we all have you here. And it's a great honor to speak in your presence. We heard a lot about the past, so let me talk a little bit of the future. Because the future is you. So today I can address you as my dear fellow filmmakers. 2 years. 2 years have been flying by. 2 years of excitement, work, love, desperation, fulfillment. 2 very special years for you, and 2 very special years for us. So I want to take the moment to thank all of the people who made this happen for us, for you and for me. The great team, the faculty and the staff. I want to thank you all for your great work. And I want to take the opportunity to name a couple of them. You see the 6 discipline heads sitting over there. Anna Thomas, Matt Chassie, Stephen Lytle, Peter Markham, Neil Canton, and Joe Garrity, who is an alumni of ASI as well. I want to thank Joe, the Executive Vice Dean, Joe Petricka, Robert Vaughan, who makes the library such a great place to study, Jonathan Leos, who take care of all your worries and questions as the head of Fellow Affairs, the registrars Carmela Cheney and Carl Smith, the one and only Barry Sabat, and last but not least, Betsy Pollock and Patty West. And Patty West, you couldn't hear the name, who helped to navigate through the complex production process. Over the 3 years I was allowed to lead the conservatory, you all formed a wonderful and amazing team. And without your support, we couldn't have done it. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. And thank you to the parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, wives, husbands, to the families. Thank you for sending these wonderful young people to us. And thank you for supporting them. And my dear fellow filmmakers, you have been a great class. It was a great pleasure and a great joy for me to be with you, and an honor. We all want to thank you for your being so enthusiastic, so challenging, so creative, and so difficult sometimes, and so great. Let me share a couple of minor thoughts with you for the future. There's a real future. At the AFI, we talk so much about collaboration, and I want to share some thoughts with you which are inspired by a long conversation I had with my great fellow German film director, Wim Wenders. You're leaving school today, which doesn't mean you are finished with learning. You will be learning your craft, and you will be learning about yourself. It was great how Marshall and Ed talked about their journey after leaving AFI. Having a strong sense of self may sound like the antithesis of a sense of community. That is especially true as it is so apparent that good films are made above all when everyone working on a project can do their best. So what do I mean with sense of self? I know that each of you can do something better than anyone else. But first you have to find out what that is and have the confidence to put it into practice. The crux of the matter is not making the most fantastic film or having the most fantastic ideas. This often does not carry you as long or as far as you might think. It is about knowing what you are good at, what you are better at than anyone else, where your very own particular sense is most highly developed. And blending precisely this sense of self into a sense of community, which is vital if a film is to get anywhere, can really be a bit of complex balance act. It's like on a tightrope. Not giving up this one aspect, one's own quintessence, while nonetheless handing over as much as possible to the project as a whole, and the collective is the most important lesson in the process of filmmaking. I made all my films, my early films, together with a small circle of people. The same scriptwriter, the same editor, the same composer, the same technicians, later the same cinematographer. We learned everything together, and that was a key to my work as a director. You are all the greatest asset for each other, the greatest wealth. So at the end of my time here at the AFI, I would like to wish you something I've learned from my fellow director, Wim. It might not mean anything to you because you think you're not believers, maybe. But you can, I'm sure, understand my wish in entirely non-religious terms. May you put your trust in God. In other words, trust yourself, your ideas, your friends, your team. May you simply have no anxiety or fear. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And if you are already afraid beforehand, that will tend to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. But for you, the sky is the limit. So, it is time now to introduce your class speaker, the Cinematography Fellow, Byonghoon Jo. Byonghoon is a citizen of the world. Truly. He's born in South Korea in the small town of Chungcheong. Well, it was close. And he moved to Australia, again to Korea, and then sometimes later to Oklahoma. When we talked, Byonghoon told me he didn't really like his name when he was young. But when he discovered later in his life that he wanted to become a cinematographer, his name suddenly made much sense to him. In English, it means speech of light. Could any cinematographer have a better name?
Good morning, everyone. It's such an honor to speak on behalf of all my fellows. I especially want to shout out to all my cinematography fellows who ran a campaign to make this happen. But honestly, I'm not the right person to do this speech, you know. I cannot represent the whole class because I'm the only Korean and I'm a cinematographer. And I haven't shot my thesis yet, so I might end up doing this whole thing and not graduate. I'm also not the most friendliest person, so some of you might not know me that well, but I gotta tell you that I stay away from being too close to other fellows because people who became too close to me, some of them got kicked out. So, I don't know how to represent the whole class, so I figured that I'll share a personal story of mine before the whole AFI, before the boot camp. So, I think I was like 2.5 years ago when I found out that I got accepted to AFI. I was so happy, I called my parents right away. I was like, Mom, Dad, I got accepted to AFI. AFI, it's a film school. Terrence Malick, Tree of Life, you haven't seen it? Okay. Remember seeing that Batman movie? Yeah, the cinematographer of that movie came from AFI? No, that's Chris Nolan, he's the director. And he didn't go to film school, but yeah, but cinematography, you don't know what that is? It's like a director, but much cooler. And then I also had to add in the conversation, I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna need some help. For the first year, it's $47,030 for the tuition fee and the production fee. The second year is kind of more trickier with $58,216. And no, that's not including the whole living expense, and rent in LA is like crazy. I forgot to tell them that I also have to pay $57 plus tax for this cap and gown. Weeks later, my mom drove 5 hours to visit me, and she had an envelope in her hand. It looked like it had some cash in it, and I was happy. But my mom didn't look so happy. I don't know if you remember, but before paying the first tuition fee, we had to pay a $1,000 deposit, and it was non-refundable. My mom gave me $1,000, and she told me that I can do whatever I want with the money, but that they cannot afford it anymore. Oh man, I'm about to cry. She told me that I can pay the deposit, but that they cannot afford the tuition fee. So it might be better to just use the $1,000 in buying a new lens or new clothes. I ended up paying the deposit, and it was probably a very stupid decision. But, you know, I wasn't being brave. I was honestly being afraid because I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't know how to. And I felt like I don't have what it takes to be an artist. So I was desperate to find someplace that would help me become an artist. So the rest of the story is that, you know, there was a great effort and sacrifice of my family and all the support, and I made it through. So although I don't know how to represent all the fellows here, I believe that everyone here would love to appreciate their family for all the support. So I want to give it out to all the families there. Unfortunately, my parents couldn't make it here. I'm from South Korea, but I love you. I also want to share a personal story regarding family, which is that a couple of days ago, I found out that I'm about to be a father. So, I'm f***ed, man. I didn't even graduate. Yeah, so thanks to my wife, I also want to thank, you know, all the friends and all the faculty members for helping us out. Like I said, I was desperate to be an artist. So I guess I'm gonna talk about if AFI made me an artist or not. So throughout the 2 years, you know, we went through so much struggle, you know, 1 week out with Betsy. You know, being belittled and, you know, feeling the urgent need to go to the bathroom and Barry Sabbas is sitting right behind you. But we endured. I guess, like the late artist, poet, philosopher, and performer Justin Bieber said, I will never say never, I will fight. I will fight till forever, make it right. Whenever you knock me down, I will not stay on the ground. pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, 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 up. So now, some of us who were stupid enough to pay, another 4 years of undergrad are getting Master of Fine Arts degrees. But I don't think I'm a Master of Fine Art. I don't feel like I'm an artist, I don't even know how to define art. But I know one thing for sure, and it's the most valuable thing I've learned in AFI, is how to make artistic choices. As a cinematographer, we make choices of, placing camera and choosing lenses and, choosing all the lights. And I learned how to make these choices be artistic. And I figured that all the other disciplines, including producing, directing, screenwriting, editing, and production design, and all the disciplines, that all the fellows learned how to make artistic choices. And as we graduate and keep working, and we keep making these artistic choices, and as these choices accumulate, I believe that we will one day become an artist, and the movies that we make will be called piece of art. So I hope that everyone agrees that they feel like, they're born to be artists, and that's why we are here. I hope that everyone agrees so that I can finish my speech, with the coolest quote I found. It's a last line from a great movie. There are mysteries to the universe we were never meant to solve, but who we are and why we are here are not among them. Those answers we carry inside. I am Optimus Prime, and I'm coming for you. Thank you very much.
So, we are handing out the diplomas. And first, cinematography with Stephen Leiter. Marcin Banaszak. Andrew Barris. Stephen Brecon. Francis Chen. Ashish Davar. Hannah Getz. Lauren Gitteras. Badwa Hydra. Yair Halper. Mark Rodrigo Jevaratnam. Byonghoon Jo. Mary Ma. Derek Matarangas. Nathan Milke. Tara Niami. Lydia Nikonova. Patrick Oziel. Pallavi Reddy. Olesia Zaveleva. Ellie Schulz. Kaushal Shah. Scott T. Summers. Kabir Teshpal. Alan Torres. Roy Wissel, Evgeny Zuk, directing Peter Markham, Mira Almidva, Joshua Amar, Maria Arida, Du Bois and Ashong, Augustus Bernstein, Drew Boylan, Dan Bronfield, Stacy Chu, Douglas Kushney Jr., Meredith Koch, Gregory Kuhn, Annika Koenig, Kara Lawson, Xiu Raim Lu, Yuven Ma, Muriel Moore Name, Stephen Orr, Michael Oshins, Charlie Pollinger, Feng Ai Roan, Jill Sachs, Dorian Tucker, Amy Wang, and Jake Jusner. So we come to editing, Matt Chessy. Matt Allen. Esther Bodoki. Kiara Burton. Ashish De Mello. Francesca Dixon. David Cavish. Nick Lane. Sean Lavery. Jifu Lee. Zekun Mao. Francisco J. Mendes Rivera. Elizabeth Salzman. Leah Vrabelova. And Gaby Zamora. Producing, Neil Canton. Sebastian Areshevala. Shahara Fatima Asafiri. Fernando Barajas. Jonathan Bloch. Stephen Gregory Allen Crawford. Jason H. Don. Joachim Gauthier. Adam Himes. George Horton. Danvi Lai. Arena Leventant. Mianda Lu. Misha Makiv. Janvi Motler. Stephanie Jackson Nillis. Bronte Payne. Samuel Andrew Robertson. Rene Gabriel Salinas. Ryan Scaringi. Chan Chan Sun. Jamila Serenturam. And Autumn Rutlington. Jamila. Production design, Joe Garrity. Fie Alba. Bitte to the right. To the right, please. Anastasia Bankova. Jubilate Cox. Stella Wanshu Deng. Alexandra Nicole Dixon. Jubilate. Adele Rose Fenner. Agia Sadan. Emma Sparrow. Claire Marie White. And Shi Yang. Screenwriting, Anna Thomas. George Kane. Juan Milo Caballo. David Cohen. Matthew Travis Cruz. Carol Faw. Catherine French. Peter Gastek. Miles Clifford Horson. Vidya Iyer. Crystal Javier. Leif Johnson. Luke Kansier. Kevin Kennelly. Jessica Coase. David Kopp. Michael Luong. Gio Maldano Chinea. Randy McKinnon. Matthew Panzer. Karin Elise Sabin. Joanna Sarkis. Rita Toledo. Greg Wayne. Susanna Williams. Sheila Wilson. Byonghoon Jo.
Curtain down and curtain up. By the virtue of the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the American Film Institute, and with the faculty concurring, I confer upon you the appropriate degree or certificate with all the rights and privileges pertaining hereto. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you the men and women of the AFI Class of 2017.